Only a revolution could save Nigeria. And I was also clear in explaining to all who cared to listen at the time that revolution needn't be violent, that we could do it using the electoral path.
Another very detailed, concise and fearless explanation from Dele Farotimi concerning the issues bothering this country. And he said that the only way out of the mess we are into is through revolution. But what shocked me on the video is when he was asked if there is still hope in this country. And he went forward to say that there is hope in the country, but the system is hopeless. In fact, that the system has been damaged beyond repair. And because of the damage, that's why people abroad are even predicting that this country might collapse in 2030. And most of the things they predicted owing to the collapse of the country in 2030 are unfolding gradually. But another most shocking thing is that he said that most of the people who are at the helm of affairs, if not all, has second passport. That is to say that if anything happens in this country, they will jump into plane and enter another country that has given them citizenship. And of course, you know that when they have this second passport, they might have investment there like house, cars, and other properties. Hey, should this be the reason why it seems like they care less concerning the issues bothering this country? In fact, let me allow you to listen to Dele Farotimi, but as you are listening to him, make sure you are clicking on that share button and also subscribe to my channel if you are enjoying my content for more updates. Let's go there.
How do you see the situation we find ourselves? Let's start from there. Share your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much once again for having me. I recall warning stridently in the lead up to the 2023 election cycle, long before I ever met Peter Obi or even began to speak for his presidential campaign. I warned that Buhari had effectively destroyed Nigeria and that we would have to reimagine a new country, and whoever was going to have to lead in 2023 had to be someone who had to be willing to take a walk away from the Buhari ruination, reimagine the country, repurpose its people, and get them to begin to pull in a different direction. I wasn't shy about making clear that only a revolution could save Nigeria. And I was also clear in explaining to all who cared to listen at the time that revolution needn't be violent, that we could do it using the electoral path. I recall spending time, a lot of time, helping people understand the need to register to vote. Quite a lot of organizations and persons were involved. TV stations, even yourself, I remember, everybody got on the bandwagon. We even bought into the illusion being sold by INEC, Okoye, and Yakubu. We believed that we could trust the electoral system, and the people were energized. People registered to vote in record numbers. You and I know what has transpired since then. It is an open secret that the ballot was grabbed, it was snatched, it was grabbed, but they ran, but apparently they've now crashed with it. So when you ask where we are in a place where we already warned before the election that we were heading. It didn't take Tinubu to destroy Nigeria. It took all of us. But Buhari was particularly effective in the ruination of Nigeria. If he had been set the task of destroying Nigeria, he couldn't have done a better job. He weaponized ethnic bigotry, religious bigotry. Corruption is an insult to the English language to call what we witnessed during the years of Buhari corruption. It wasn't corruption. It was the first time in Nigeria where impunity became a governance principle.
I thought people said that was during Jonathan.
No. Please. I recall that in February 2015, a piece that I had written and almost every newspaper house in Nigeria had turned down. It was eventually published by Guardian on Sunday, February 2015. I think it must have been February 15 or something. I can't remember now. And I called it, "Do Not Die in Their War." I made clear, without any apologies to anybody, that Buhari wasn't going to be any change. If anything, it would be worse. And I called attention to all the characters surrounding Buhari to make it very clear that even if you believe in the illusion of a Saint Buhari of Daura, You could not possibly have believed in the sainthood of the many thieves that were around him. I made this clear at the time. Not that Jonathan made it easy for anyone to have spoken for him, and I certainly did not. If we're comparing the two, you can only be a study in comparative failure. Because if Jonathan had been an effective president, we would not have had a situation where a man who left office as president and came back after 30 years without even having the capacity to get a school certificate. Even his dairy farm, with all the subsidies the rich in Nigeria enjoy, never expanded beyond what he was. He didn't write a single book. And then that became the one that was packaged as Messiah for everybody to buy into an illusion. I didn't buy into that illusion, and I warned everybody at the time. But that is not to excuse the failings of Jonathan himself. Jonathan actually prepared the ground for the failure that became Buhari. But the reality is that whoever had come after Buhari would have had to reimagine Nigeria, because Buhari had already effectively destroyed Nigeria.
So would you accept that the ruination of Nigeria did not start under Buhari?
Oh, the ruination of Nigeria was always part and parcel of the seed of his making. Nigeria was always found on multiple lies, and those lies were always going to eventually consume it if we never found the grace to confront those lies with truth. We tell ourselves too many lies in Nigeria, and until we come to the point where we admit to ourselves that these are lies that we have normalized, internalized, and almost defied as truths. You say no victor, no vanquished. Who is telling you that lie? Even the foundation of Nigeria is very foundation. There are too many lies in there. The Nigerian has never been a citizen. He has only ever engaged the Nigerian state either as a member of one tribe, or member of a religion, or a member of a family, or a member of a social order. There is no identikit for who the Nigerian is. You can't take a Nigerian from anywhere and say that this is the Nigerian regardless of his ethnicity, his religion, his state of origin. There is no such Nigerian. You know who a Ghanaian is, you know who an American is, but who is the Nigerian? There are more Liverpool Football Club supporters in Nigeria than Nigerians. That is a fact. Think about it.
Okay, so let's move to today.
Okay.
As at today, we know what has happened under President Jonathan. We know what has happened under President Buhari. We're now in the era of President Tinubu.
The last horseman of the apocalypse. That is what it is.
Okay, so that's the way you would want to describe it. Some members of the Labour Party and some people who have described themselves as obedient have said President Tinubu is not their president.
Well, I am first and first a creature of law. I am by training also a lawyer. Whether I like it or not, Bola, or let me rephrase that, the man known as Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I forgot to add Adekunle, he is the president of Nigeria. I may like that, I may not like it. Whether the legal order was subverted to bring about that fait accompli, whether I believe that they've effectively destroyed Nigeria to bring it about, it does not matter.
So you're a Nigerian?
I'm a Nigerian.
And he is the president
He is the president of Nigeria.
He is your president?
Unfortunately so.
Okay, so that's clear. So now your president then...
Unfortunately.
Yeah, your president has created a situation where, unlike any other president in the history of Nigeria, people are crying, we're starving, we're hungry.
Good.
What would you be saying to him if he was listening now?
Why would I be saying anything to him? I shouldn't. Look, you know, there is this error that we make as a collective. We almost constantly, always excuse our situation. We excuse the failings, quote and unquote, of our rulers on incapacity, on mistakes, we find multiple excuses. What we never seem to understand is that they are doing exactly what they set out to do. So how do I tell a man who knew beforehand the exact repercussion of the actions and inactions that he had decided consciously to do, to carry out? A man came to power, in my own opinion, fraudulently so, And he then proceeded on the very first day of his stay in office to say subsidy is gone. That singular pronouncement destroyed the savings and well-being of at least about 98% of Nigerians.
But this was the promise of all the other
But
candidates.
they did say that each person also set aside what program they would put in place either before or after doing so. Since that was done in May, what has
2023.
happened? What has happened to the national minimum wage bill that was signed? Which states? How many states are implementing it? What has happened to the price of petroleum products? What has happened to the price of electricity? What has happened with security? Let me explain something to you, Ebon. In northern Nigeria, poverty has always been part and parcel of the social fabric. But food poverty was never a thing, because no matter how poor the people were, they could grow their food. They could stay in their villages. They were safe. So even though they might not have a kobo to their names, they had food on their table. They could eat. They could live with a roof over their heads. What has happened? On Buhari's watch, superintended again by the one who has now succeeded him, northern Nigeria has become essentially a theater of war because of illegal mining. And the illegal miners work under the licenses of different warlords whom you and I will call bandits. Bandits are carrying sophisticated arms. All manner of mineral resources are being mined in northern Nigeria, and there are more than sufficient evidences of this in the public space.
So how do you feel when you realize that the governor that superintended over Zamfara state, where there are so many bandits and where there are so many illegal miners, is now the Minister of Defense?
Put it this way, to look at any part of Nigeria or look to any one of the many functionaries of the Nigerian state and then be outraged, as I am when I look at someone like Matawale or whatever that one calls his name, being the one, even bandit says that he's one of them. That's the one that is busy, they're calling the Minister of Defense. When you look at it, it's always very easy to be outraged by the insanities that we have normalized in our country. But I have found that it would only be a sense of selective outrage that will lead me to look at Matawale and be angry. Who am I supposed to look at, from the president to the Senate president? To who am I supposed to look at within the Nigerian governing establishment and find some inspiration for hope? Who?
What do you have against the Senate president, by the way?
How many charges was it that he had with the EFCC before he became canonized by the Buhari government? Isn't that the same man that was being chased into the government house in his former state? Look, he is no better or worse than any one of the other ones. Take any one of the senators. I don't believe they are any better or worse than he is. It's just primus inter pares. They are all the same. Bar one or two, maybe, because I don't really know how you expect anything good to emerge from this sick system that we have. It's very easy to point fingers at Tinubu, Akpabio. Those are the primary examples of the society that we have managed to evolve. But are you going to look at the clergy and find anything better, really? Are you going to look, whether it's the Muslim cleric, the Christian clerics, where are you going to look at?
So when you look at the entire system and you say that the entire system is fraudulent, is decadent, is almost near what somebody I know, but I won't mention his name, who's a politician, he said many years ago that the case of Nigeria is hopeless. Are you at that point where you think?
No, I don't believe Nigeria's case is hopeless. No. The system is hopeless. You cannot reform our existing system. It's beyond redemption. I actually believe that any true lover of Nigeria should be sat somewhere as a collective making plans for the day after. This system is already dead. We are just trapped in a death spiral. I don't know how long it's going to take. Even the Americans, all of them are busy gaming the end of our country. The sick thing about our situation is that people are sat in Washington, D.C., and God knows how many think tanks around the world, and they are gaming our situation, and they've made conclusions that our country will collapse by 2030. And stuff that they had predicted are already happening, and we are seeing them happening, and we are sat like victims on the Titanic. We are rearranging deck chairs.
So Nigeria is not in a hopeless state.
If we as a collective find the grace to confront the truth of the hopelessness of our existing governance systems and structures, if we find the grace to tell ourselves that each and every one of us looking in our mirrors in the morning are just as guilty as the ones we have set over ourselves, because what we tolerate is what becomes the culture. We have tolerated these, we've become part and parcel of it. We are also guilty. I'm not exempting myself, I have my own blame in this. There are no saints and sinners here. Our situation has gone beyond the place of saints and sinners. We are all, to varying degrees, guilty. We've made all form of horrible compromises, all of us. But if we believe for 1 second that we can continue on our current trajectories without urgent turnaround, the reality is that even those ruining Nigeria whilst pretending to rule it have already concluded, even as the American and British sponsors have concluded, that Nigeria will die the way it's going. And they are making plans for the day after. We are the ones who have failed to make plans for the day after. There is no single person, and I say this without equivocation, who you may deem a member of the Nigerian elite who does not carry a second passport or have some form of residency in a foreign country. They've popularized buying up citizenship of one tiny island somewhere or the other. They have one for the level of capital flight out of Nigeria will tell you, with the way this current government is superintending the economy of Nigeria, that we've entered the end game. They have gamed that Nigeria is dead. We are the ones, the victims, who have failed to understand that when Nigeria collapses without us having planned for the day after, we are the ones who will be the victims.
So which of the islands have you got their passport?
I have never carried a second passport in my life. I do not have the residency of any other country aside from Nigeria. As I speak with you, the only reason I cannot claim that I do not have a foreign account is because I had to open one in 2010 when I was trying to buy a car in America, and I have less than $100 in it. I have no foreign property anywhere. With Nigeria, I'm all in.
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. So it means you're a stakeholder that will not go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
So does that include protest and fight and revolution?
Let me put it this way.
Or whatever?
I don't do protests.
Okay.
I don't do protests because when you are protesting, there is an assumption that the person to whom you are protesting has the capacity to hear you, and because he has heard you, he will then make amends on account of your protest. Protests happened from the 1st of August. I believe it ended on the 10th.
Yes.
This government increased the fuel price instead of decreasing it. Does that seem like people who listen? This government is deaf and dumb. Deliberately so, because it does not accord with the plan of this government to listen to the victims who believe themselves to be citizens.
So you're one of those that believe that this government does not care about the people.
As it, look, who steals power to care for those from whom it has stolen their inalienable right of sovereignty? Who does that?
Confirm. Now, Dele Farotimi is that man that whenever he's speaking, he don't always disassociate himself from whatever is going on in this country. And that is one of the reasons that makes me feel like he has the interest of this country at heart. Now, concerning what he said about the system damage in this country, in what ways do you think this system can be revamped or rehabilitated or even changed to suit the progress we are all looking for in this country? Share your thought with me on the comment section. And of course, you know the vibe. Click on that subscribe button, follow, and share for more updates. Because like this, we move.